Wait a minute. Hear me out. This is a little bit nerdy, but this is probably the most important thing you could learn about the frequency spectrum and about EQing. I know it's a bold claim, but just hear me out. This changed my mixes when I understood this one secret. It's called the fundamental frequency, and it changes for every single instrument, but the way you find it remains the same. To put it simply, it's literally just the lowest periodic waveform, and by periodic, I mean it goes in cycles. So there's a lot of rumble that happens at the low end, but as far as the notes go, it's the lowest note. Take a look. So this is an EQ, and this is the frequency spectrum of this specific vocal. There's a lot of rumble down here at the low end, but this guy right here, this is the fundamental frequency. That is the lowest periodic waveform in this entire frequency spectrum. Why is this so important? Because it's literally like the root note of a chord. When you play C on a piano and you have C as your low note, this is what basically everything else builds on top of. Everything up here are what you call harmonics, but this here is the fundamental. So this is serum. I'm just playing a sine wave through serum. A sine wave is a pure note. So when I play the note, I get one single sine wave. So everything in a sine wave is a fundamental frequency. There is no harmonics on top of it. Now, if I want to add harmonics, I can add saturation, I could change the waveform, all different sorts of stuff to add harmonics on the top. Let's add some distortion. Let's just crank it up. Now look at the harmonics that it added to the fundamental frequency. See that? It added harmonics. And the more we turn the drive up, the more harmonics it adds. This is great if you want to get your bass to cut through phone speakers or any sort of small speakers, because you're basically adding on to the fundamental frequency, which is that low sine wave. Now, why this is so important is because this is how you actually get to thicken up your vocals, to thicken up your snare drum, to get your bass out of the way of your kick drum. Everything in EQing usually stems down to the fundamental frequency. You at least need to know where it is and how to use it. Have you been getting value out of this video so far? If so, you're gonna want this. It's my Mom in the Car compression checklist, and it's free. Just scroll down right now, click the top link in the description, and you can have it for free. It's really just a way to understand compression better. All right, now back to the video. So let's say I want to thicken up this vocal here.
I almost gave you my devotions. You were playing my emotions just to get it.
So if I wanted to thicken this up, I could throw on an EQ. I could find the fundamental frequency of it and just boost the fundamental frequency. So that way you still are able to hear the individual note definitions in the vocal, and it still thickens it up without adding a bunch of mud.
I almost gave you my devotions. You were playing my emotions just to get it.
So that right there is here. That is where the fundamental frequency is. Now we can just select our Q, because when she goes around singing different notes, that is going to change just slightly. But for her vocals, it's going to set right around in here. So you can just set your Q to kind of catch those frequencies. And then down here is just low end rumble. It is the lowest periodic waveform. Remember that. So we're just going to cut everything down here. And now I can boost this frequency and give this vocal some thickness that it needs. Make sure you're listening on headphones to really hear the difference here.
I almost gave you my devotions. You were playing my emotions just to get it. Oh, I almost gave you my devotions. You were playing my emotions just to get it.
See how that thickened it up? Or even when I took it out, the vocal sounded really weird, and I was only taking out this one frequency here with a mid-wide Q at about 228 hertz. But when I took the fundamental frequency out, it really changed the sound of the vocal. And when I boosted it just a little bit, it made it hit just a little bit harder and made it just a little bit thicker. Let's do literally the exact same thing, but on a kick drum. So immediately we can see where the fundamental frequency is, and it's right here around 51, 52 hertz. So I can just select the Q here, and then I can get control over just that specific frequency. I can even roll off the rest of the low end if I want to, depending on how it fits in the mix. This is a kick drum. I kind of do want that low subbiness, but I do want to get control over that fundamental frequency. Now it just sounds knocky. There's not a lot of sub, not a lot of low end. I could really make that knock. Now everything else up here is what you would call the harmonics. And so let's say I want to get a little bit more kick out of that kick drum. I would probably just layer another sample on top of it. But just for the sake of this video, let's find that harmonic and we can boost it along with the low end here to get a really nice kick drum sound. Understanding the fundamental frequency is extremely important, but what's even more important than that is knowing how to use an EQ. The biggest EQ mistake you're probably making is revealed in this video here. So if you want to know the biggest EQ mistake that you're probably making, click on this video right here. I'll see you there. Now go create.